Hi all, welcome to the brand new series of Azure 304. So we will look at AZ 304 important exam questions. These are very much real or near to real exam questions. If you practice these, the chances of clearing your exam increases many folds. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos if you are liking the content. Please remember that these videos will help you clear the AZ 304 uh, certification exam. Now let's jump into the questions. So in a nutshell, what this question is saying is you have a database DB1. It has a lot of tables. Now you have to improve the performance of this database. How will you do that? There are these many options. Let's look at one by one. For this, the correct answer seems to be automatic tuning. So if you see what is automatic tuning, if you see here, it is a fully managed intelligent performance service that uses built-in intelligence to continuously monitor queries executed on a database. So it is constantly monitoring the queries, and now if you see here what it can do, it can automate the performance tuning of databases. It can automate verification of performance gains. Now let's look at the question. The question says that the solution must minimize the administrative effort. Now if you look here, it does so many things for you. It will automate the performance tuning of the database. It will automatically tune it. So that means your administrative effort is drastically reduced, right? It will do so many things automatically. You don't have to worry about tuning the databases and etc. It will collect the stats. It has some built-in AI and it will tune the databases. So it's perfect. That's what you need for the database. But let's look at other options. The second one says Azure Advisor. So if you see Advisor, it's a very different tool. It is used to optimize your Azure deployments. So what it does is it will go through your configurations and usage telemetry, and it will offer you personalized recommendations. So it is not linked to any of the database related stuff. Okay, it is related to some of your Azure resources that you will be using or deploying, and it is linked for reliability, security, operational excellence, performance, and cost. But it is not linked to your database tuning. So this is ruled out. Now let's look at Azure Monitor. If you see this, the monitor allows you to maximize the availability and performance of your application and services. It is mostly related to applications and services, not specifically for databases. Another thing that happens is it will just monitor your statistics. It will not automatically tune it. It will monitor and tell you, boss, this is the problem here. You need to look at it or send alerts and etc. or take any automated actions. But what our question says is it should you should improve the performance with minimizing the administrative effort. So this is not minimizing. It is telling you, boss, this has happened. Now you take a call. You decide what to do. If you want to send automated alerts, you have to configure it. If you want to take any automated actions like sending an alert to someone or running some scripts, then you have to tune it. But even though that piece of automation is there, still I would say automatic tuning is something which will tune the database for you. So that is much better, and it is less of administrative effort. Let's look at option D, query performance insight. Now if you see this tool will only give you which queries are causing a problem, which are long running queries and etc, which are causing a problem, and it will this helps you to find the queries to optimize your workloads, but it will not optimize it for you. You will have to do it yourself. It will only give you these are the queries which are long running queries. Because of these queries, some other queries are in the queue, but it will not optimize it for you. It will not optimize the database also, because what it is doing is it is providing you deeper insight. It is providing you details on top database queries etc. It is providing you details. It is not doing things automatically for you. So this is the right answer. Let's move forward. Now this is question number 2. Now what it is saying is it has a Microsoft System Service Center Manager on the on-premises network, and you plan to deploy several services to Azure. You want to recommend a solution to push Azure Service Health Alerts to Service Manager. So what is Service Manager? So what you have is you have SCSM on-prem, and you have to push the Azure Service Health Alerts to this SCSM Service Manager. Now what to do out of these options? Now as the name suggests, we have to use ITSM in this case, because what you want to do is you need a ITSM connector. You want to, from Azure, you want to push it to SCSM, so you need a ITSM connector so that this Azure can talk to this place. So sending it to event hubs or notification hubs makes no sense, because event hub is used for real-time streaming and notification is used to send notifications in case there is a real-time alert coming in. Even if you do that, there is no use, because you want to send alerts to the service manager. So something like tools like ServiceNow and etc, that's where you want to send your alerts to. An application insights connector. So if you want to connect to the application insights application, then you can use this connector. But as we saw, in this case, we have to push it to the service manager, and that's why ITSM is the right option. So this is the answer, option A. Let's move to the next question. This is the next question. Basically, this question is saying that you have to set up smart alerting to detect anomalies in the data. Now let's look at the option. The first option says use site recovery along with monitor logs. Now what is site recovery used for? If there are outages, then site recovery helps you ensure business continuity. That is the basic purpose of site recovery. Now, not used for this use case where you have to set up smart alerting. Let's look at the second option, Azure data analytics and monitor logs. Now there is no mention of data analytics here because it says it's a web application, but it doesn't mention where it is stored and etc. Now even if you store the data, suppose this JSON is in data lake analytics and you plug monitor logs, still it will not be useful because the purpose, you have to build some kind of scripts to run on data lake, on the data lake storage, not data lake analytics. So if this is not even storage, this is data lake analytics. That's why this option is wrong. Now C says application insights and monitor logs. Application insight is designed for this purpose. See, application insight is designed so that it can monitor request rates, response times, etc. So if your web pages are most popular at what times of the day, and it can access those kind of data sets, the dependency rates, response times, to find out external services which are slowing down your applications, exceptions, diagnostic, etc. So it is used to monitor your application. So this is your web application, and application insight will monitor it, and once it monitor, it will send the logs to the Azure monitor logs. So what monitor logs it does is, Azure monitor, it will collect and analyze and act on the telemetry data. So it can be sending emails and etc., or any automated scripts that you want to run. So C is the correct answer, but let's still analyze option D. So if you see the security center, the main purpose is to protect and manage your Linux and Windows virtual machines. Okay. So it has a very different purpose, not linked to the question. So the right answer here is option C, where application insight is used to monitor your applications, and it can send the telemetric data to the monitor logs, from where you can set alerts or you can store it in a storage to analyze it further. Let's look at the next question, question 4. Basically the question says there is a spending limit and each department has its spending limit for the Azure resources. Now what you have to do is, if the spending limit is crossed, then the compute resources of the department should shut down automatically. This is the key ask. Let's look at the options here. The first one says Azure Logic Apps. So here we have to use or choose two options. The first says Logic Apps. So the purpose is very different. It is used to schedule, automate and orchestrate tasks and business processes and workflows when you need to integrate apps, data systems, etc. It's a very different purpose. Our questions ask is something different. You have to track the spending limits, and then you have to shut down the compute resources. Let's see monitor alerts. If you see monitor alerts, so it is used to monitor something like, say, the target resource or condition type, etc. So this is based on the metric you can send alerts. That is one. And then you can use a log query against if you want to send a log alerts. If you can use a log query, and you can send alerts based on a specific resource such as a virtual machine or subscription, etc. You can do that, but there are no provisions to understand the budget that you have set, and then based on the budget you have to kill the compute resources. There is no provision for such a thing. Let's look at option C, spending limit of an Azure account. So the main purpose is that when you set up a spending limit, it will prevent you from exceeding that credit amount. It will prevent that. Now what happens if you reach the spending limit? It says that if you reach the spending limit, the services that you deployed are disabled for the rest of that billing period. And here it gives an example, like once the credit is expired, so it will remove all the deployed stuff from production, and your virtual machines are stopped and deallocated. So what are virtual machines? It has computed, and it will be stopped and deallocated. That's exactly what our answer is looking at. Our question is asking that. So we now know that C is correct for sure. We need one more answer. So the option D suggests cost management budgets. So if you see here, cost management helps you create and manage your Azure budgets. That is perfectly what we need for our answer. So what you do is you set a budget first, and that's what your the question says, that each department has a specific spending limit. So you set your budget first in option D, and then option C, the spending limit of an Azure account will automatically ensure that the compute resources, for example the VMs, are shut down automatically. No, log analytics alerts. So what it is used for is, if there are some of the monitoring logs and you have it in the log analytics, you can run analytics on it and send alerts. But this is not something which is used for setting up the budgets and automatically getting rid of the compute resources. So we will lock our answers. Options C and D are the correct answers. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. It gives me motivation to keep on this hard work, so that all of you can pass these certification exams easily. Let's go to the next question. You need to recommend a solution to generate a monthly report of all the new Azure Manager, Resource Manager resource deployments in your subscriptions. Okay, there are 4 options. Let's look at each of them. The change tracking management solution. Now, if you see change tracking and inventory overview, what it does is it will track the changes in the Windows software, Linux software, and the Windows and Linux files, registries, etc. This is the purpose of it. It will not track the activities of the new resources deployed. Hence option A is wrong. Option B, application insight. So if you have an application like some web application and etc., and if you want to monitor that application, then you can plug application insights and it will monitor it, and it will send some of the logs to the Azure Monitor or log space analytics. You can use that to analyze it. But in this case, the question is saying resource manager resource deployments. This will not track it. So if you see here, application insights is a feature of Azure Monitor, and it is used to monitor your live applications. It cannot be used in this case because it will not capture what resource manager or what resource deployments happened in the subscription. It will not capture. The third option C suggests Azure Monitor action groups. So action groups are basically notification preferences, which is defined by the owner of a Azure subscription. Suppose you are the owner, then you will have to define it. What it is used for? It is used for Azure Monitor and Service Health alerts. It will go and see what type of alerts it has to send. For example, these are the informations: type, the notification type, or like for example, voicemail, SMS, etc. Name says unique identifier of the action group. Details are corresponding details that can vary by type. Based on the type, you can put in the details. So it's a very different purpose. It will not come to know what resource got deployed in your subscription. It will not come to know that. Okay, so for that purpose, you have to use Azure Activity Log. Activity Log means it's a common sense. If you see this question, it's a common sense. What you have to do is, whenever resources are deployed, there is an activity happening, and where you can see that activity, you can see that in an activity log. Now, what is an activity log? So if you see this description, activity log is a platform log in Azure, and it provides insight to subscription level events. What are those events? Something that sort of a resource is modified or a virtual machine is started, etc. And is that what our question is asking? Yes, our question is exactly asking that whenever there are new resources deployed in your subscription, it should be able to generate a monthly report. So that you can only get from activity log. So this is the right answer. Let's move to the next question. This is the question. Have a read. Now, if I have to answer this question, so what I would do is pure common sense. Like I'll not go through the concepts first. Pure common sense. If you read this question, what it is saying is that there is a Azure SQL database DB1, and on that DB1 there are queries which are taking long time to execute. Okay, and you need to identify which queries take the longest time to execute. If I see these options, common sense says query performance insight, because it has the word query, and that is what I have to identify. And performance insight means it will tell me which queries are taking longer and etc., something of that sort. So if pure instinct, if I don't know any of these concepts and I have to answer this exam, pure instincts, this is what I'll do. Okay, now let's look at each option one by one. SQL database advisor. Now database advisor, it gives you performance recommendations, like whether you need to create indexes or drop indexes, parameterized queries recommendations, or fix schema issues, etc. If your auto tuning option is already set, then it will also tune your database for you, but it will not tell you like which queries are taking the longest to execute, etc. Azure Monitor, it is used to monitor the applications, or the resources. Azure resources can send alerts or send their telemetric data to Azure Monitor logs, and then alerts can be sent. But it's a very different purpose. Monitor will not sit on your database and not tell you if your queries are taking longest to execute. Performance recommendations, Like we saw in this case, the recommendations are being made, but it will not tell you which queries are the longest queries. For longest running queries, Query Performance Insight is the resource we have to use. Like you see in this documentation, it helps you to identify the top resource consuming and long running queries in your workload. So this is what our question is asking. So our way of guessing the answer was also correct, and then we went through each and every description to understand which one is the right answer. This is the right answer, option D. Let's move to the next question. Subscribe to my channel if you have not done so. It will assure that you clear the AZ304 exams. This certification exam is very important if you are planning to build a career in Azure. Now, in this channel, you will also find other Azure certification exam real questions. For example, AC900, DP900, DP201, DP200, AI 900, and I have also put in contents for AWS cloud certification, that is the basic one, and you will 100% pass all of these exams if you go through my videos. And I have also put contents for AWS Solution Architect Associate. So please have a nice time going through all of my videos and keep clearing these certifications one by one. Always remember, my focus through these videos is always to ensure that the concepts are clear. I don't want you to mug up the answers. I want to make sure that you are understanding the concepts. Let's move to the next question. Now in this question it says there is already a Hyper-V cluster on premises and it has around 30 virtual machines running, and that same has to be converted into Azure. So using Azure virtual machine. The key here is each virtual machine will have a different workload, but the workloads have predictable consumption patterns. So when you move, suppose you for 30 virtual machines, you have 30 VMs in Azure. So what they are saying is, from out of these solutions, choose two which will help you minimize the compute cost of the virtual machines. So the pain point here is we want to minimize the compute cost. The compute cost. Okay, how will you minimize it? Let's go to the options. You have to choose two options. The first one says configure a spending limit. If you configure a spending limit, what will happen is, suppose you put a spending limit of, suppose you have a budget set of $1,000, and the moment that $1,000 is going to be reaching, or if it is reached, all the compute resources will be deallocated. So now this will help you just curb the cost, but your services are off now, and how will your data centers work, or how will your Azure work now? Your customers cannot work. So that is not an option which is desirable. The second one says create a virtual machine scale set that uses auto scaling. Auto scaling will be useful, but here if you see auto scaling when you have unpredictable workloads. Here they are saying the workloads are predictable. You see this option here, this line says the workloads have predictable consumption patterns. So in order to replace 30 machines which is in your data center, you will need 30 VMs, and auto scaling will be of not much help here. So that's why B will not suffice here. C says use Azure hybrid benefit for VMs. So hybrid benefit, what it does is, so the client already has on-premises Windows Server. So you want to use a Windows Server here, so the same licenses can be moved over here. So that's the benefit of hybrid benefit. So this will be helpful for us because that will help you reduce the cost, because you don't have to buy new Azure licenses. You can use the same Windows licenses on your Azure platform also. D says purchase Azure reserved virtual machine instances for VMs. Reserved instances are always better, both in any cloud. If you reserve the instances, they will have a locking period of 1 year or 3 years, and that will be cheapest. I mean, it's almost 90% cheaper or 70% cheaper than your on-demand instances. Now, the last option, Azure Dev Test, it is only used for dev and test environments. It cannot be used for production environments. So here we are talking, this is about production. We are not in, nobody it is nowhere it is saying it's specific about dev and test. Whenever the question says something, then it implicitly means production. So if you see this, there you get a licensing benefit out of Azure hybrid benefit, and it can help you reduce the cost of running your workloads in the cloud. That is one. So with the reserved instances, you will save the cost up to 72% compared to your pay-as-you-go prices. So this is what our answer also says. So we will lock these two options. Option C and D are our answers here. Let's move to the next question. This is question number 8. Basically, you want to deploy resource manager templates, and then it should interact with Azure Key Vaults to store secrets. So it can pull the secrets directly without any manual intervention of a human being. So what it says is your IT staff should perform the deployment without retrieving secrets directly from the Key Vault. So suppose you are the IT staff, you should not go to Key Vault, retrieve the secrets, and then give it to a resource manager. Your resource manager should directly take it from Azure Key Vault, and a principle of least privilege should be used. So if you see any of the resource management, or whenever you are giving privileges working with Active Directories, etc., you should always go for least privilege. You should not give all privileges in one go. For example, someone just needs read privilege, just give them read privilege. Don't give them read and write both. Now what it is saying is you create a key vault policy. So here what happens is you have a key vault, and then you have Azure Resource Manager template, and in Key Vault you should create a policy. So you should not create a policy which allows all permissions. So whenever you see allows all, it is breaching the principle of least privilege. That's why A is not the right answer. B says from the access policies in Key Vault, enable access to the resource manager. This looks correct because you have access policy defined in Key Vault which will enable access to the resource manager, which is perfectly fine. So this is our first answer. Option C says create a key vault access policy, which is fine. You want to create access policy, but then again you are giving all list key permissions, etc. This is not desirable because it is again breaching the principle of least privilege. You are giving all privileges. Even if someone just needs read privilege, you will give all privilege, which is not desired. D says assign the IT staff a custom role. Yes, the IT staff can be assigned a custom role that includes key vault, deploy actions, action permission, etc. Now you want to prevent, what it says is prevent the IT staff that will perform the deployment, etc., etc. So you create a custom role for the IT staff so that it is very clear the role is custom and it will have specific privileges only. So D looks correct. E says assign the key vault contributor role to IT staff. That means IT staff can access key vault. So if you see this key vault contributor role is for management plane operations to manage key vaults. It does not allow access to key secrets and certificates. But the question never says that there is a need for this IT staff to have the contributor access. And what is the need for it? It just says to IT staff that it will perform the deployment. You have to restrict it from directly accessing the keys. So what happens is in this option D, the IT staff will be able to access the key vault. They will have a custom role, but they cannot access it directly. It will be always through this Microsoft.key vault command. They cannot access it directly. So similarly, so when this IT staff is doing the deployment, right? When the deployment of these Azure resource templates is happening, it will retrieve the secrets not directly but through Microsoft.key vault, so that the resource manager templates can directly interact and use the keys from here. So that's why D is the right option. So we will lock these two answers and move forward. So this is the next question. So basically it is saying is you have an Azure Key Vault, and there are other Azure subscriptions, other resources, and there is a regional outage. Okay, so how many Key Vault resources you should have if there is a regional outage? So 1, 2, 3, or 6. These are the 4 options. Now you always remember Azure Key Vault. Whenever a Key Vault is created, that service resource will have regional backups as well as backups in other regions also. It will have those replicas. So that's why only one instance of Key Vault is okay, because it will automatically replicate itself within the region. And since in this case there is a regional outage, so it will also replicate it in some secondary regions. Let's look at it in the documentation. Now if you see this documentation, the Key Vault features multiple layers of redundancy to make sure that your keys and secrets remain available to your application even if individual components of the service fails. So this is an important line. The contents of a key vault are replicated within the region and to a secondary region at least 150 miles away. This is important. This feature is not available in South Brazil. That's all. Therefore, 1 is the right answer. So this brings us to the end of this video. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. Also refer AZ900, DP900, AI900 of this channel. There are so many videos which a lot of people are using to pass those exams successfully. I have also uploaded DP 201 and 200 real exam questions. Please go through it. And if you are also interested in AWS certifications, on this channel you will find AWS Cloud Practitioner and AWS Solution Architect real exam questions. So have a nice learning and keep clearing your certification exams. This will help you build your career in cloud successfully.